It's my pleasure to welcome you to the Oshtemo Charter Township Special Board Meeting of May 19th, 2026. And at this time, I welcome you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hold on, let me get on the Zoom. Is Trustee Cole on the Zoom? Okay, give me a second to jump on for the. Should I start singing national anthem? Oh, that's right. Okay. Thank you. Just for the knowledge of the public and the board. Trustee Cole indicated she would be joining us virtually, but yeah, it's still echoing. Does somebody have their? Is it better? There it goes. Okay. Trustee Cole indicated she'd be joining us remotely as she's working out of town, but that does not count for remote location identification as permitted by statute. So she may log on and participate during public comment, but not vote or board deliberation. And Trustee Chapman may or may not join us as he is dealing with some outside matters of importance today. So with that, item 3, remote location identification is not necessary. So I invite a member of this body to share a township core value.
Yes, I'll share a core value. Decisions are made based on the value to our township and residents.
Thank you, Trustee Sikora. And a reminder to the members, make sure you get up towards the microphone so people can hear you. Next is item 5, the approval of the agenda. And thank you, Attorney Porter just reminded me, since this is a special meeting and we do not have a full board, we can only address what is on the agenda. So with that, I have a motion to
Move to approve the agenda.
Support.
A motion by Trustee Ford, support by Trustee Sikora. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5 with 2 absent. Next, we will move right into the purpose of calling a special meeting. I want to thank, tonight we have the resolution for the adoption of the 2045 Comprehensive Master Plan and the Master Streets Plan. And I just want to thank our Planning Director, Steforia, for working through this, doing some final tweaks on the last version. And I also want to thank our Meeting Communications Manager. I want to thank Mr. Cobb in Operations, as well as our partners at Progressive A&E, who all took time to read that doc. Oh, and also, Anna, you didn't participate in that one this time. Sharon did? Okay, and the Public Works Department to put these final tweaks. So with that, I'd like to welcome Ms. DeForia to move us through this item.
And a big thank you to Sarah from Progressive, who burned the midnight oil making these changes so we could stay on track to be here tonight. The Planning Commission had their second public hearing on the Comprehensive Plan and Master Streets Plan at their meeting last Thursday night. Some of the changes that when we did a final reread of the hundreds of pages that make up those 2 planning documents internally, we saw a couple minor things to change, such as incorrect page number citations, and then it was observed that we forgot to mention the Harris family, which is one of our earliest families and our first African-American family, important members of this community. So we expanded on the history section to make sure we spoke about them. And when this process kicked off several years ago, I think Fruit Belt Trail was more of a dream, but now that it's actually under construction, we we're able to update that map in the planning document to show it as an existing facility, even though it's not quite existing yet. Other changes where in our proofreading, we saw the word township sometimes capitalized, sometimes not capitalized, and so that's been addressed with a thorough review. Going with Oshtemo rather than capital T Township or lower T Township, more because it's a more familiar term, not because there's any intent in this planning document to say we're going to not be a township anymore, which is what was stated at the Planning Commission public hearing, that there was sneaky way to say we're going to become a city by taking the word township out of your planning document. But no, we just went with Oshtemo. It's like a more familiar term than just saying the sterile word township. These changes were more than minor, so you as a body rejected the plans as required by the Planning Enabling Act, sent them back to the Planning Commission for that second public hearing, which again was held last week. So the comprehensive plan and master streets plan were passed forward to you by resolution unanimous of the Planning Commission. And we're hoping that you find it in your heart to adopt them by resolution tonight also, so that we can get an application for a Safe Streets for All application out the door by the deadline of next Tuesday, 5 p.m. And then Sarah and Matthew from Progressive are here this evening. You have questions or would like a brief presentation on the documents?
A brief presentation, I think, would be
Okay.
appropriate. I mean, we've seen this in many times over the last year and a half, but
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
I'm just going to plug in quickly here. But yeah, as you mentioned, a lot of this content is going to look very familiar, but I have kind of an updated place types map that we can take a look at with a minor change that happened, and then we can just do a refresher on both the comprehensive plan and the master streets plan document. Just a moment while I get plugged in here, please. Oh. Laptop. Oh, nice.
And I would just add, this is a good time to do a presentation because there's members of the audience that haven't been at any of the other ones, and so fresh eyes and ears to see our plans.
Okay. Okay. I think we're working on getting this up on the screens. I can go ahead and get started. A lot of it will need the visual component, but I can just get us started here and hopefully we can get it up there. So I'll start off by talking about the Oshtemo Comprehensive Plan. And that document, as Jody mentioned, had some changes that have taken place since the previous version. A lot of those just the technicalities of making sure that we have the township capitalized correctly, all of those page references align well. And then one of these significant changes I wanted to call out here too that I can show you once this loads here, is we had some public comment at a previous planning commission meeting. And since we spent the time making these revisions, it gave us a chance to go ahead and get that updated before adoption of the plan anyway, so that worked out very well. And essentially what has happened there is our neighborhood mixed-use place type has been extended slightly southwest along 9th Street and KL Avenue. And this just came from public comment of a property owner in that location who the property there was designated to become an extension of his business, and just parts of other people who spoke up at the meeting said that it was best suited for that use. So we took a bit deeper of a look at it and we agreed with those recommendations. So the place type map does have that minor change, and now you can see it. So the area I'm speaking about is this one right here. If you see my mouse moving, just at 9th and KL Avenue. It's been slightly extended. And later on in the presentation, I can show you what it was before as well. Okay, so bringing us back to the very start of the plan, we organized a lot of our recommendations and different ideas with 6 different concepts that we identified at the start of the plan as either motivators for doing this planning work or things that we found once we started researching. So just a reminder of what those 6 big ideas are. The first one that we focused on was about how a connected community begins with a shared sense of belonging for everyone, from newcomers to longtime residents. So really focusing on that belonging piece and what does that mean. The second thing that we focused on was taking a look at the demand for housing. So again, just how this is something we're seeing nationwide, and the same is true for Oshtemo. So we wanted to dive into how do we address this housing need specifically within the township here. The third idea focuses more on commercial and the different types of commercial that we need within the township and those that we necessarily don't need anymore. So the capacity for those more large-scale commercial services, Oshtemo has a lot of that already accomplished, so it's time to focus on some of those more small-scale local uses. The fourth item that we took a look at is just the fact that Oshtemo really has grown so much, and with that growth has come change. So just finding ways that we could put context to the different development that we'll see happen as Oshtemo continues to grow. The fifth item, and this one really ties in with our master streets plan work that took place, is that we really want to have a dramatic increase in safety within the township for motorized transportation, be that sidewalks, walking, road, with car travel and everything. We want to see safety increase. And then the last item was that this effort really took into account all of the planning that has happened previous to this plan. So we spent a lot of time looking at all the work that's come before, and we've tried to ingrain that within this current plan. So the rest of the PowerPoint just kind of goes through a summary of the different contents of the plan. So this comes from Chapter 2, which really focuses on the community engagement that happened for this planning project. So just by the numbers here, we have a list of all the different engagement touch points that we had. So we had a thought leader meeting that served as kind of our eyes and ears and served as our local knowledge for this plan. We met with them 9 different times throughout the project. We had 3 community pop-ups where we went to different locations within the township to connect with people where they were at. We had 3 focus group sessions where we talked about specific ideas and concepts with smaller groups of people that we brought in. We had 2 large community gatherings, and then all in all, we had 768 survey responses, and a piece of that comes from the market analysis survey that we did as well. And just kind of a timeline of these different engagement events. These really spanned from April of 2024 all the way until March of 2025, where we had those different pop-ups that I mentioned, our larger community gatherings, and then at the end, we kind of capped it off with a community survey where we got to share all of our findings and where the different ideas for the plan had landed to make sure that we were in the right spot. The next portion of our plan is taking a look at the vision and goals for the township. So in collaboration with the Thought Leader Committee and from feedback with all of our community engagement, we developed a final vision statement, which is that Oshtemo is a community designed for everyone. We are connected, adaptable, and diverse, creating opportunities for shared experiences and recreation. Future decisions will support balanced growth and quality of life for residents, visitors, and businesses alike. So from that vision statement, we crafted 6 different goals that speak more to the specifics of what we'd like to see happen. So our first goal is about cultivating a strong sense of place and belonging. Our second goal is to prioritize housing for all. The third goal is to foster a connected, accessible, and resilient transportation system. Goal 4 is to facilitate balanced growth and economic vitality. Goal 5 is to safeguard natural features and environmental health. And Goal 6 is to enhance community well-being and public safety. And a lot of those, again, tie back to those original 6 big ideas that started the planning process. The next portion of the plan takes a look at what we want our future land uses to be within the township, and we've prescribed these as place types where we've defined different characteristics for what we want those future land uses to take shape as. So we have 5 different place types overall, and then we also created a parks and preservation category to identify different park spaces and land that already exist within the township. But for the rest of the place types, we have two different commercial place types, our regional corridor and our neighborhood mixed use. So regional corridor are more of those large-scale buildings along kind of your major roadways. They have a regional draw and they're used quite heavily. And then the neighborhood mixed use is that more small-scale local area of commercial, and then it also incorporates different housing options within it as well. Within there, we have our two kind of core residential categories. The first one being neighborhood residential and the second being countryside residential. So neighborhood residential focuses more on having diverse housing types permitted within the area, focusing on ideas and development patterns that encourage people to engage with their neighbors. There's shared green spaces, different types of roadways than we see in countryside residential, where countryside residential is more of housing developments that have taken place off of major roadways again. They're not necessarily as much of a subdivision type of development style. And a lot of these are situated within areas where there's farming taking place and more of those rural landscapes within the township. And then the last category is our innovation and industry category. So this one kind of supports the diverse use of different industrial practices, research, educational, office, and all of those kind of innovating up and coming industries. And we've taken these into account on our place types map and figured out spots located near highway interchanges where these make sense. So again, this is our revised place type map. So this is how it exists in the plan today. So you'll see the major call out there is just that this neighborhood mixed use has been slightly extended, which you can see when I switch to the next slide here. It was previously smaller, and public comment warranted that it did make sense to extend that further for existing uses taking place there. All right, so the next portion here kind of jumps into the implementation section of the comprehensive plan. And within that implementation section, a primary thing that we start looking at is how can we amend the zoning ordinance so that we can make the ideas present within the comprehensive plan a reality through our zoning ordinance. So this just summarizes some of those ideas that we're taking a look at. And these are just getting started, but looking at how can we simplify our residential zoning. There's currently more categories than we might find that we need for residential, so those could be reduced slightly. We're looking to modernize industrial zoning, so figuring out which districts could be merged. And then again, as I mentioned, we've relocated heavy industry near highway interchange locations. Also taking a look at our commercial zoning. So a lot of work will probably take place from this neighborhood mixed use district that's been created through the comprehensive plan. So that's something that we'll spend some time working with the Planning Commission to figure out what the best fit for that is in the zoning ordinance. And then also taking a look at different overlay zones and figuring out which ones still make sense or how could we consolidate those and weave them into existing zoning districts. And then this graphic, I think, just kind of helps to show that the comprehensive plan itself is more of an advisory document that shares the vision and is a representation of the goals that we've heard from the community. It also has the future land use map and the different place type land use categories. Now from here, after we complete everything today, we move into that regulatory phase where we start weaving the recommendations into the zoning ordinance. Over time, more long range, the zoning map will change slightly, and then those place types will be translated to zoning districts. Another portion of our implementation section takes a look at the idea of creating a township hub. So this is something that relates back to how can we increase feelings of belonging and kind of local connection within the community, since that was the major thing that we heard from engagement. So these just show some very preliminary ideas and brainstorming about how we can make that take place right here in this location, and just taking a look at initial concepts here. Sorry, I have a tickle in my throat.
Do you want some water?
That would be great. Thank you so much. I think Matt's going to take it away soon here. Thank you. I appreciate it. Another portion of our comprehensive plan is our special studies. So these were 3 different areas that we felt, thank you so much, warranted some additional research and additional ideas. And again, similar to the comprehensive plan, there have been a few changes that have taken place here. A lot of those were just kind of cleaning up some technical errors and then updating references to the West Main project as that being in the past tense as it's taking place. We've corrected some references to the city of Kalamazoo instead of the accidental township reference. And then some areas where we've just incorporated referencing the county drain commissioner as they'll be involved in some of these aspects of the work, and then adjusting some footnote documentation. So nothing major, but things that really helped clarify the recommendations of the document. And then just a reminder of what those 3 special studies were. The first one is at the Maple Hill Pavilion Mall. So this one just takes a look at how can we better utilize underutilized land. So we have these large parking areas and some vacant locations, so taking a look at how can we make use of these areas that are primed for transit and bringing in green space and housing. The second special study is an area near H Avenue and Croydon Avenue, and this one really just takes a look at how could we implement neighborhood residential place type recommendations into this location. And then consideration was also given to street connectivity within this piece of land. And then the final one here is Lodge Lane to West Main. And this one takes a look at some different stormwater management practices and then figuring out again how could we make the roadway network work better here with a lot of consideration for environmental factors. And I'm going to pass it over to Matt.
All right, good evening. My name is Matthew Wilkins. I'm a transportation engineer with Progressive that helped out in the development of this Master Streets Plan document. I'm here tonight in Suzanne's stead to walk through some of the changes and, like Sarah just did for the comprehensive plan, to give a very high-level overview of the content in that document. So, a lot of information on the slide here, but at a very high level, what's changed are technical and clerical errors in a very similar fashion to the comprehensive plan itself. We included a lot of specific clarifications or engineering documentation regarding certain dimensions, certain widths, certain standards that were referenced to in this plan. Would be happy to kind of elaborate on any one of these if there's any questions afterwards. So, backing up again, the Master Streets Plan was born out of this idea that not only is land use, which is kind of the focus point of the comprehensive plan, important to consider, transportation is also a vital part of how we grow, how we develop, how we change over time. These two things are inherently related. So starting from this idea that different places require different types of design, we wanted to help hone in on the types of transportation facilities that could be provided for certain future development patterns in each of the 5 different place types. So there's a lot of work that went into this document. One kind of critical element of it was defining these potential key connections. So again, as we think about place types, where we want to concentrate development that's closer to our existing infrastructure, to the existing kind of population centers in Kalamazoo and to the east, we think about improving connectivity not only for folks that are driving, but for folks that are walking, biking, using transit to and from houses and commercial destinations in this area. So this map represents a very preliminary vision for what some of these key connections look like. They are not final, and they are certainly subject to further evaluation and kind of site-specific constraints that may evolve and or arise over time. The second critical part of this Master Streets Plan was the development of what are called street typologies. So if we think about place types as kind of the guiding framework for what a certain location could look like as it develops in the future, street typologies are the same vision or framework for what the streets, roads, trails, and sidewalks in that place could look like or how they should be designed. So one guiding vision for the development of the Master Streets Plan was aligning these typologies with the place types, with the development patterns that exist today, and the ones that we expect to kind of encourage and promote in the future. So that's at a 10,000-foot view. Zooming way in, some of the changes that were made in this past round of revisions was incorporating that adjustment to the place type. So again, as Sarah pointed out, it's a little tricky to see, but that would be the extension of the neighborhood residential section in this kind of intersection quadrant here. There were no changes made to the street typologies, kind of outlining it. Another element was the consideration or provision of a proposed non-motorized network. So this includes not only facilities that are there today, whether they're trails or paths along the side of the road, but also potential future options for what non-motorized facilities could look like in a street or outside of it. So that could be a bicycle lane, that could be a bicycle path. But again, these are all intended to kind of talk to each other, be in alignment. We're looking to kind of provide non-motorized connections where we expect it to make sense, depending on where we expect development to happen in the future. Another piece of that was deciding when and where to introduce non-motorized facilities through the Township's and the Road Commission's capital planning process. So part of this Master Streets Plan outlined a decisions matrix for the potential inclusion or lack thereof of a non-motorized facility when reconstructing or rehabilitating a street or road. So a lot of information here, but in essence, it's saying to first use the place types to refer to where we're at, then look at the street typologies. Some of these street typologies include non-motorized facilities that are dedicated. Some include recommendations for connections that may or may not be kind of in alignment with the street itself. And then following this flow chart helps us understand when and where to introduce these types of facilities as we build and reconstruct over time. Another big part of this Master Streets Plan was the inclusion and the identification of what are called safety countermeasures. So these are a list of just under 30 engineering elements that are defined by the Federal Highway Administration. These are things that have been proven through evidence-backed research to address and improve different types of safety concerns along different types of streets and roads. So not only is there kind of a summary of a handful of these safety countermeasures, there's also recommendations for where they could be implemented on Oshtemo streets and roads in the future. Circling back to these street typologies, we also provided some very high-level preliminary information for what different street designs could look like. So again, understanding that certain places have different types of traffic or non-motorized demand. For example, Main Street sees more traffic than 9th Street. 9th Street sees more traffic than Neighborhood Street. The design of each of these things should and will kind of adjust and accommodate both the demand that we know is there today and the demand we expect to see in the future. These are just a couple different other options for those 6 different street typologies that are defined in the MSP. Part of the Master Streets Plan also included what's called a project prioritization framework. So stepping a little bit back from the details that are shown on this slide, the MSP was also kind of developed along the same timeline of the Safe Streets for All grant opportunity that I think has been brought up a few times. That's why we're here tonight. So not only does the MSP kind of serve as a complement to this comprehensive plan, we're also intending for it to be eligible or position the township to be eligible for capital funding for implementation, which is essentially construction dollars for street and road projects in the future. One key component that the federal government requires an eligible plan to include is a prioritization framework. So developing an understanding of how we got to the project list that we did and how we ended up kind of prioritizing one project in one location over another. So this framework kind of provides a very high-level methodology for weighting and assigning scores to certain types of projects. So the MSP also included kind of a laundry list of some of these projects as well as their associated score. So again, some of these were non-motorized focus, including closing gaps in the trail network, completing the sidewalk network along 9th Street, as well as some other kind of more roadway or safety-focused improvements. I believe that was all the high-level changes we had, so I think we will open it for questions. That's the end of our presentation.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Of course.
Does any board members have any questions for our folks from Progressive A&E? No? Okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Before we go into any board conversation regarding the resolution, I'm going to open this up for public comment. So if you are here at this time to make public comment concerning item number 6, now would be your time. Your public comment would be focused on comments related to the comprehensive plan or the Master Streets Plan. Yep, please, welcome. If you don't mind letting us know who you are, and then our Policy for public comment is on the back side of the page, but you have 4 minutes, and I have a timer up here, so, and you should be able to see it, so.
And I should be able to be done in less than 4 minutes. My name is Doug Kirk. I'm deeply involved in the bicycling community here in Kalamazoo, and I am not a resident of Oshtemo. I'm a resident of the city. But I've been bicycling Oshtemo Township roads for 40 years, and I'm here because of what I think is a serious omission in your non-motorized planning. I'm speaking specifically of 2 one-mile sections of roads. So in your imagination, imagine in Avenue between 9th and 11th Streets, and 11th Street between In Avenue and Parkview. Got those in your brain? Those are seriously important roads for non-motorized transportation. If you want to get between Oshtemo and Kalamazoo on your bicycle, those are roads you need to be able to ride safely. Those are not roads that are listed for any kind of improvement in your non-motorized transportation that I can see. I ended up here before you because first I contacted the Road Commission. And the Road Commission told me, I'm going to read you directly from the email I received from Travis Bartholomew, the managing director. It says, In Avenue from 9th Street to 11th Street is currently included in our primary road capital improvement program. However, at this time, Oshtemo Township has not committed to a coordinated non-motorized component along this road project. Now, I learned this evening that In Avenue is actually a dividing line between Oshtemo Township and Texas Township. But folks, you got half of that, and I want to encourage you any way that I can that this is important. It's a road that's in very poor condition right now, extremely unsafe to ride, and to repave it without putting in a decent shoulder for bikes would be a huge mistake. Similarly, you've got the same problem on 11th Street between In and Parkview. Another road that's in terrible condition. The Road Commission did some wedging on it a few years ago, but both these roads are extremely important for bicycling between Oshtemo and the city, and both need your help. That's why I'm here. I haven't seen anything in any of the documents that have been provided to me to show that Oshtemo Township is on board with making these roads safe for non-motorized transportation. I'm here tonight to ask that you do so. There, I got a minute to spare. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kirk. I actually am seeing the managing director tomorrow, so I'll have a chance to speak with him directly regarding his correspondence. Is there anyone else?
Mr. Bartholomew? Travis Bartholomew?
Yeah, and usually, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said anything. Usually, we don't go back and forth from the dais to the public during public comment, so, but is there anyone else wishing to make comments regarding the comprehensive master plan or the master streets plan? Yes, please, if you don't mind introducing yourself.
I'd be happy to introduce myself.
Let me get you started here. Are you ready? I'm ready. Okay.
Okay, my name is Regan Fader, and I'm here about the Master Streets portion of this. We were a group of us in our neighborhood, the Westport neighborhood, were under the impression from Zach Pearson, the project manager for the sewer project, that Bluffton is going to be extended to connect to RuPaul, is what I call it, and Bella, and perhaps another street. We were told this was part of the master street plan. It was not addressed by your engineering firm today, and so I'm curious if there is something in that master plan that addresses this. If you would address that, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Fader. When we go into board deliberation, hopefully somebody can respond to your question. Is there anyone else here? Yeah, please, if you don't mind coming to the podium and introducing yourself.
Hi, my name is Sherry Weber, and I live at the corner of Trundle and Bluffton. So as Regan mentioned, there has been a lack of transparency, a lack of proactive communication about anything that's happening regarding Bluffton. So there are rumors circulating. We were told specifically by Zach Pearson that it was in the master street plan that would go from Bluffton over to Bella and potentially another one. I scoured all the documents this morning. I cannot find that. I'm not seeing it on the maps. So the bigger issue and concern for me is that we want input. We want to be able to provide you input about how we feel about very specific changes that are being made to our roads. I know years ago when Avia Credit Union came in, I got a letter in the mail saying that this thing was coming, there was an opportunity to provide input, et cetera, et cetera. I've had none of that. I've had no communication at all. It wasn't until I went onto the website this morning to investigate for myself what was going on. So I'm asking you for proactive communication. I'm asking you for the opportunity for us to provide input because this impacts our day-to-day lives in ways you might not imagine. So that is regarding the master street plan. My ask is for you to delay moving forward on the master street plan if you possibly can, because we have not had a chance for consultation at all, nor have we been informed proactively. So that is a problem. Along the lines of lack of communication, the corner of Trundle and Bluffton right now, which I will come back and talk more on the 27th about, it is a construction site. It is residentially zoned. Every map I see has a neighborhood residential zoning, and that's a problem. There is noise, there is vibration, there's a huge diesel tank that's being stored there. So I will talk more about that on the 27th. I know that this is about the master street plan. Myself and a number of my neighbors are not happy with the presumption that it was in the master street plan, you should have looked, because that's kind of what we've been led to believe, and none of us can find it. So I want clarity on whether or not it's in the plan, and I want you to delay the master street plan. The other sort of overarching thing, I think is fine because it's conceptual and we can get into the nitty-gritty details, but we're being told specifics that we then don't have documentation for. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to make public comment on either of these items, the comprehensive plan or the master street plan, please?
My name is Steve Visser. I live at 6279 Sugarbush Trail in that same loop there for many years and have enjoyed it. I knew eventually that street would go through to something because I put it there by the township's ordinance, so I did. And I figured that it would raise a little concern in the long run, and it has. But anyway, my main concern is that there's safety, like she mentioned, going on, and I don't see that happening because there's no job site supervisor there for people to address concerns in the day-to-day operations. There should be somebody there for your sake and the neighborhood's sake to address safety concerns and other concerns of what's going on there as these big lead trailers come in there on these tractors, which I saw yesterday. They're twisting on our curved roads, bringing in materials. I understand construction, I know that has to happen, but these roads are rated for residential, not for Class A semi-loads. You have restrictions on 9th Street, 10th Street for deliveries and for that kind of stuff. But when they come into our plat and bring that kind of load in there, it's going to affect the roads. So for your sake and our neighborhood's sake, we need to make sure that somebody is watching out, that they're doing it correctly, and that would be an on-site job person to do that, to make sure that that's being documented, because if you don't document it on site, it might come back to haunt you in the later days coming up here. And the other part of the safety would be there's a lot of kids in that neighborhood, and I grew up in a neighborhood with a lot of construction, and I love to go look at the construction as a little boy. And there's a lot of little boys who are very curious in that neighborhood. So again, for the township safety and assurance that there is no accident, which is everybody's worst nightmare, with a family member over there, please put somebody on site to keep an eye on what's going on, document it, and make sure that the neighborhood feels safe that way. I understand that's going to happen. I mean, there's just no turning back on what you're doing. It's a thing that's needed in our neighborhoods, sewer. So I figured that that's the best way to go, is the route you're going there. But another part of this construction thing that I've dealt with all my life is soil erosion permits. I don't know if you got one, if you need one. Road commission permission to break through the road there, to add on to that road. I don't know if you've got those kind of permits. I always had to, and was always held my feet to the fire to make sure I had them. Silt fence on areas where we break soil. I don't see silt fence out there, and it's all running towards Myers Pond if it rains. And we had a lot of rain this spring. All your material is going to run towards Myers Pond, and I assume they own that pond, and they've been putting a lot of money into that thing, trying to get it to perk and drain. And I'm sure they don't want to see your materials coming towards their pond. So that's something else you might want to make sure the contractors put up that silt fence to protect that. So I assume the township is its own contractor, because you own the property, correct? So you are the contractor? Is that correct?
We don't do back and forth questions with the board from the podium during public comment.
Okay. All right. Well, I just say that as a concern as a contractor, that if you are the contractor, a lot of these things that might come up will come back to this room right here, which you know. You see that all the time. So be sure that the roads are clean. We always had to get a skid steer with a brush on it. If the mud was going out in the road, it didn't take long for the road commission to call us and tell us to clean it up. I went over there tonight. There's not a clean road over there. It's very dirty. There's sticks in the roads. There's 2 storm drains at the end of the road. Those both have silt covers on them. There's a third one, which the lady referred to by her front yard.
Mr. Visser, your time is elapsed.
I just want to bring those concerns to you about what's going on there and make sure you guys don't have a problem in the long run. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone wishing to speak about the master streets plan or the comprehensive plan? Okay, we'll close public comment. We can move into some board deliberation. Before we move forward, does anyone have any questions for our planning director, Ms. DeForia? I might have one or two, Jody. Sorry. Is the, that connection from Bluffton to RuPaul, is it in the master streets plan?
I don't have it in front of me. I think Matthew's talking with the gentleman outside about it. I think the Master Streets Plan shows big picture connections,
Okay,
potential
so
connections.
it's not every detail is not in there
Right.
like that.
Do you happen to know, Director Horner?
No, I was going to say the same thing. I think the classifications of roads that people are used to, we use like a local, a collector, an arterial. We did not get into the local level on that map. It's meant to be
Okay.
a very high-level map.
Okay.
The document does then talk about, though, planning these neighborhoods to be connected and why that's a best practice for emergency services, for everyday services like the buses and deliveries and things like that. So it talks into those details so that as each case comes up and we have the opportunity to connect something, or in one of our recent developments, we looked at where a connection wasn't necessary because we had a different connection. We can go through those and use that document as the guide to help determine which connections are necessary.
Okay, that makes sense to me, thank you. I want to remind the board that the township owns 5 acres in that area for a pocket park, which is that, I haven't driven over there, is that where machinery is being staged? Okay, I figured that as well. I guess that's all my questions I have for Jody. Does anyone else have any questions?
I have two items. First, I really appreciated you having the one document showing all the corrections from the previous. That was very helpful to
Yeah.
be able to follow through with those and understand why the changes were made. Following up, though, with the gentleman speaking about the bicycle on, or, non-motorized on N and 11th, as someone who used to live off of N and used to walk down there and regularly dive into the ditch as the cars, and no room to move over, how does something, well, that's one item. And then the other thing is up on H Avenue, where the Grange Hall is, the Parks Department has specifically put in a bicycle, well, we have a porta-john there, a porta-potty there for the bicyclists, because that's a great staging area, and also a bike repair kit station there too, because it's a beautiful scenic route and a lot of people use it. How does something like that get into a plan, or is that too far down in the weeds to get onto a streets plan? I'm getting at, like, fixing those roads and then also incorporating like the H Avenue section where there's so many bicyclists going there, and we've actually encouraged them to stop there at the Grange and
Yeah.
use the facilities.
Anna, do you mind speaking to the decision matrix that we asked Progressive to put in the master streets plan?
Yeah, that's, I don't know how many of you are familiar with our previous Go Green plan, but there had a map that had non-motorized facilities, much more specific on that. And we were running into, when trying to implement that during development, that it didn't really work with the conditions. It's a plan, it's meant to be high level. And so that's why we switched to the matrix, so that we can, again, consider the context and make sure that depending on the constraints, whether it's right-of-way, topography, driveways, we can fit the right facility for that road. So this plan doesn't, if it doesn't have a specific facility type called out, that's when the matrix would come into place. So if 11th Street or N Avenue got developed, I can't say gets reconstructed because the road commission is involved when it's reconstructed. But when a new development comes in and the township reviews those plans, that's where we would apply that matrix to make sure that we have the right facility for the context. That has really been the industry push, is to consider context when looking at right-of-ways, roads, things like that. So that would give us the ability to analyze those things if a project came up, especially along 11th Street that was mentioned. I mean, there's some very undeveloped parcels there, so a lot of frontage that could be applied there. I don't know if that, and then H Avenue that you mentioned, same thing, like the H Avenue, because it's existing and we're not expecting, at least from west of the highway, we're not expecting, big commercial developments or big housing developments. That is going to take us working with the road commission on their design standards to get that changed. I believe that is signed as a bike route on their non-motorized plan. So they also have a non-motorized plan, which is essentially just widened shoulders. It's not a non-motorized plan, but so those are, when you see an actual sign that says bike route, it's coming from the road commission's plan. And so I hope that answers a little bit.
So in the case of like N Avenue and 11th Street, we're basically SOL until somebody, pardon my language, until some development comes along. We can't,
Yeah, or we improve our partnership and can agree on road design
okay.
more.
Okay, that answers that question. And the other, on H Avenue by the Grange, it just puts into my mind, being on the Parks Committee, that we're encouraging people to take that route and go there, and they love it. But the rest of it, of making it safer, it doesn't seem to be incorporated there. Like, we're doing one thing as a township to encourage the biking, and we're not able to, perhaps is the best term, to make it a better bike-friendly or walking-friendly, non-motorized path on the shoulders there where people are already clearly using it, as opposed to, well, let's build something and then they'll come. They're already there.
I think Attorney Porter always says this, we don't have primary authority, but we will continue to advocate, attend the road commission meetings, provide feedback on their capital plan, so that when those projects come forth, we can be involved in the design, and this board probably is aware that we've asked for money to do that and meet their standards, even if it means, having to get easements and things like that. So we will continue to try and move that forward. But yeah, there is a little bit of a conflict there with authorities.
Thank you.
I think, too, the fact, I kind of think of these as, like you said, a plan, a very high-level plan, but if an opportunity comes to us either through a partner agency or a development and, and it fits in the decision-making, it doesn't mean just because it's not in these pages that we wouldn't bring it forward for consideration and discussion. So these are guiding documents, and I think that, for me, that's how I interpret that difference. And that continual road jurisdiction, who can do what, when, how, and communication is always a work in progress. Any other comments? I mean, there's a resolution here.
I move to adopt the Oshtemo 2045 Comprehensive Master Plan and Master Streets Plan as presented.
A second.
A motion by trustee Ford, a second by clerk Farmer. This is a resolution. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Trustee Cole is absent. Trustee Chapman?
Yes.
Trustee Ford?
Yes.
Trustee Sikora?
Yes.
Treasurer Bushka?
Yes.
I vote yes. Supervisor Bell?
Yes.
The resolution is adopted 5-0 with Cole absent.
Ah, see, I'm
6-0. I'm sorry, I typed it in before you came, and so I have to go back and change it.
See, it's not
6
as
to
easy
0
as it
with
looks, is it?
6-0 with Cole absent.
Okay, very good. Now, we will move to item number 7. So, at the encouragement of our planning director, Public Works, and awareness, there's a Safe Streets for All grant opportunity available. There's federal dollars. And because of the adoption of our Master Streets Plan and the comprehensive plan and the Master Streets Plan, and the thoughtful content that was added into those documents, we are eligible to apply for this federal funding on our own. In other words, we don't need another umbrella organization to manage the money for us, which is swell. And so I'm going to turn it over to our Public Works Director, Anna Horner, to discuss, I think, very high level, what we would like to apply for. I think we'd like the blessing of the board to go ahead and move forward with this.
Yep, I tried to outline in the memo some of the highlights from the grant that I thought would be beneficial for both the board and the public to be aware of, and there's some links in there to all of their documents. They have many, many pages to go through, and I think this, I don't have to repeat some of the stuff that just got said through our Master Streets Plan and the information that's in there about the crashes in particular that Oshtemo experiences. We're 30% about of the crashes in the county, and we are only 10% of the population. We do have a lot of pass-through traffic just because of where we're located with the major highways, both 131 and 94. And again, the industry has kind of been looking at, they call it Vision Zero, but really looking at reducing not all crashes, but severe and fatal crashes is the focus. Understanding that crashes happen when we're driving heavy vehicles, and we are human. So we are looking, based on the grant prioritization, we try to give ourselves a score before we submit an application to make sure we're going to be competitive. So we've looked at that, and working with staff, we took projects right from the plan and really could focus around the DDA area. That's kind of the boundaries we're using because of, unfortunately, the severe and fatal crashes that have occurred in those areas. So this grant opportunity, it's pretty typical that they're an 80-20 split, meaning that it's an 80% grant, 20% matched by the township. However, this is a minimum of $2.5 million, so it's a much bigger match than some of the projects we see like through CATS with a TAP grant for our sidewalks. So we did want to bring that to the board, and we do have a few years if we were awarded the project to implement this. So I printed this so tiny, but
So it would be 20% of the 2.5 million?
it would be, but I would like to go after a $10 million total project.
So it would be 20% of a 10 million?
Yes,
project?
yep,
Okay.
which is
But
in the.
not tomorrow.
No, I wanted that clarification.
Yeah, and it's in the bottom of the memo that, yeah, we're looking at a $2 million grant for the estimates I put together. I'm actually at 2.12. But I have laid out how we could fund that from our different funds, including the water fund, the sewer fund, the DDA, and the road fund, and the general fund, with some flexibility amongst all of them. The major, again, these are all projects that are in those documents we just approved, but I'm going to list out some specifics. One being the Atlantic Avenue extension and intersection realignment, both Atlantic and Parkview and Stadium, and then a new stadium in Atlantic. So I definitely think this grant opportunity aligns with a lot of the principles that are part of that project. Other ones include 9th Street, so north and south of Stadium, doing some increased pedestrian crossings, so improvements where we can add islands and mid-block crossings because the Road Commission and DDAs does allow mid-block crossings as part of their recent guideline changes. So that's also why we're leveraging this area, is because of the way they have identified where you can put some of these streetscape elements. It is a DDA, and so that fits well with ours. We are also looking at a roundabout at 9th Street and Stadium. It's a very huge intersection. There's a lot of lanes of travel in either direction. It gets very high volumes. And so that's, some of those factors are things we look at for where a roundabout would be applicable. It's also the types of crashes that occur there is when you would look at a roundabout. The roundabouts really make the crashes less severe. So we would be looking at doing some other elements to reduce speeds on Stadium. Again, and probably 9th Street too, but Stadium in particular is cars get going very fast, and there are not good places to cross when you get to either side of 9th Street. So not only the speed reduction, but then providing like a pedestrian refuge island in the middle lane where there aren't any driveways that it would conflict with. So those are the highlights of those. Again, the overall construction project cost would be 10.6 million, and then the grant would cover about 8.5, and the township's match would be a little over $2 million if we got awarded this. There's no guarantee we would get awarded. So other things we're looking at to make a competitive application are letters of support. So I know Jody was going to reach out to the DDA about that, and we have some businesses in that area that I think would be willing to provide those as well. And then as we finalize the application, I am still trying to think of ways with the fire department to do the post-crash projects. I'm less familiar with those, the post-crash care. But if we find opportunities where, again, with some of this road, using the existing pavement, but realigning some of the lanes, if there's a logical spot where emergency services can get off to the side to respond to some of these areas, that's what they're looking for, is how can you improve response care. So it's a little different from many typical road safety project application I've seen, but we are going to try and add some of those in. The grant is due next Tuesday by 5, so we will be working pretty hard on this over the next few days.
Thank you, Anna. Do any board members have any questions?
Just one question, just to summarize. The township has an opportunity to put up $2 million and get a total of $10 million in safety infrastructure? Okay, I support this.
Thank you. Trustee Sikora?
Yeah, I have just a couple questions. So the current project on 9th Street between Stadium and KL is putting in sidewalks, right?
It's just Stadium and Quail Run, but yes.
Oh, just to clarify. Oh, thank
Okay,
you. Yeah,
sidewalks
that's
on the
right.
west side only.
Okay, and that didn't include any crossover? Well, of course, there wouldn't be anything to cross to.
Not right now.
Not right now, yes. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. And this is based in the DDA area? Okay. Then the areas that you highlighted in your memo, or, well, maybe you did, maybe that's the bolding, like beautifying transportation infrastructure with context-appropriate design and/or child-friendly elements? What does that mean?
So again, it's looking at these, what we'd probably call streetscape elements, but bulb outs where there's a safe spot for a family with bikes, you know, a wider facility that's not just the minimum 4 feet. That to me is child-friendly. But the bold items are directly from the application. It says it makes them more competitive if these elements are included. So again, other context, you just can't think of it on Stadium Drive, but, you know, having some areas where there's a bench off the sidewalk would be one of those things where somebody has a safe spot to go. Increasing the transit facilities, we have a big route, Route 11, that goes down Stadium and then south on 9th Street, so we can work with Metro and provide those things. I mean, I've seen projects where along trailways, they have some like interactive kid activities that maybe go along with a business that's there or a school. So those would be some of the elements. But for us, a lot of beautifying transportation infrastructure is just like the streetscaping, adding brick pavers to add that contrast for somebody who's visually impaired, those kinds of things. Again, right in this context where we're thinking of it as like a downtown area and we want it very walkable, you know, adding streetlights, things like that.
Yeah, that's great. And obviously a big focus here is, part of this is going to be by Flesher Field, which is a park, and now we're opening the Fruit Belt Trail, which is going to increase the number of people trying to get from one side of the street to the other to get to whether they're biking or whether they're walking or jogging, whatever. Anything we can do to make that safer, that whole area, if we're trying to encourage people, again, to use that facility, and they're going to come and use it anyway, I totally support. So I'm definitely in support of this, just as Trustee Ford has mentioned.
Yeah, one of the specific projects under the whole grant that we have is the Erie Street reconstruction. So just like we did on Chime, add on-street parking, but where that's a real tight curve right there, add a traffic circle so that you could have facilitate going into the park, going into the trailhead, going on either street would be much safer.
Thank you.
Director Bushka, any questions or comments from you?
No, I'm in favor of this whenever we can get that kind of, I'm gonna say free money to benefit
not free.
residents. Say, $8 million is a lot of, you know, to
Grant.
support resident safety, then I think that's valuable.
And this project's been in the hopper for quite some time. I mean, this was long planned before, certainly I was supervisor. Trustee Chapman, do you have any comments?
No, I think one of our primary responsibilities is the safety of our community, and this supports it. In addition, it leverages the hard-earned money of our citizens and our taxes to expand services, not at their expense. So absolutely in favor of this.
Thanks. Clerk Farmer?
I have no more questions. I just had the one about the match.
Okay. As a reminder to the board and sharing with the public here and online, this is a federal grant. We don't know if this opportunity is going to be available again next year. And not only is it competitive nationwide, but I guarantee, I already know a few of our neighbors are also applying for this grant too. So I am very appreciative of the staff being willing to jump in and give us a opportunity to go for it. But, you know, Later on, you need to cross your fingers, light a candle, twirl, all the things. Trustee Sikora?
We'll leave those activities to you. You don't want to see me doing that. Is this an all or nothing grant, the 10 million, or can they approve parts of it, or just curious?
On the implementation side, it's all or nothing. If we were also applying for some of the like demonstration funds that are available, they could, if those don't get used up, then they could give it to a community and not award their construction or implementation side. But yeah, it'll be all or nothing.
All right. Because this is an item for consideration, I will allow an opportunity for public comment. So if there's anyone here, any members of the public who wish to speak on item 7, application to the U.S. Federal Department of Transportation grant opportunity, now would be your time.
Hello, it's me again, Regan Fader, and as long as I'm here, I would throw my support behind this 100%. That intersection in particular needs a lot of tender love and care, so yeah, go for it.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to make public comment? Yeah, please. Got to reset my new fancy gadget we just got.
Jennings. I live in the loop over on Breezy Point. First time being on the Township meeting. Just a couple of things. The word safety's come up a lot of times in this meeting. And I know Doug was talking about the bike path, and there's not a clear path forward on that. But, you know, if you build it, they will come, the parks. But to get there, we want people to go on the bikes, but it's potentially dangerous. So I think that is a big concern. Our neighbor doesn't have sidewalks, which to me is kind of crazy, right? So I have grandchildren, I have pets. We have a lot of people cycling, taking the Powermaster little wagon out. And I'm really concerned right now with these big, heavy equipment on those streets. Coming out today, there's a big front loader, no turn signals. Where's he going? No idea. So there's a big concern of this heavy equipment going through that neighborhood. It's residential, right? It's not, yeah, that's a big concern. The other thing, grant, great money, right? $8 million, 2.1 million. But I'd like to know where's that money coming from. They mentioned the sewer. We can get it from this budget, we can get it in this budget, this budget. So in business, you got to know where the money's coming from before you apply. Where's that $2 million coming from? I know we want to go ahead and ask 2,000, go by next Tuesday, I think, right? But I would just question, where's the money coming from? Is other projects going to suffer? So that's the other question I had. And then I think that's basically it. But yeah, pleased with the meeting, the comments from the public. I think there's a lot of passionate people here. But I do question when we bring up safety, and you just do like in work we do a gamble, you would go and see. Go to 9th Street, go to 11th Street, walk around the neighborhoods, look at this construction equipment. Is it safe? Would you walk your dog there? I think you wouldn't. So I think that's what I just want to add. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jennings. Anyone else wishing to make public comment on item number 7? Okay. Anna, I mean, I think I know the answer, but how to fund the match, I don't think other projects will suffer. This gets built into a capital improvement plan, and when she was talking about sewer fund, road fund, general fund, so, you know, when the tax dollars come into the township, you know, they get applied to different kinds of revenue funds, and so what she's proposing is based on the scope and size of that project, there are multiple funds that we can use at the township to do a project of this scope. So, the math will be put together as a part of the grant application to make sure that we can get there. So, we won't submit if it doesn't look like we can't really make it happen. I think, was there any other, I think I wanted to just address that question specifically. Any other board member comments? Okay, well,
Do we need a motion for, no? Okay.
So, yeah, we don't, because we formally don't need a motion, but we didn't want to go forward with pursuing something like this without having this discussion. So with that, we can close item number 7. I think, Anna, you have your marching orders. She's been already really hard at work, so I know that won't surprise anyone on this body. So at this time, we'll move to item number 8. This is an opportunity for public comment. You can speak on anything that you wish.
So Sherry Weber, living at 6421 Trundle Lane, corner of Trundle and Bluffton. So I will be back on the 27th, and I will send you a whole bunch of information, including videos of the incessant beeping of vehicles, large construction vehicles, backing up and down that road multiple times. I work from home, and I have Zoom calls from 8 a.m. in the morning until 5 p.m., and guess what we all get to listen to? Really loud crashing of containers. There's some sort of container that they drop on the road repeatedly, shakes the whole house. One of my windows has cracked from the vibration, and it is incredibly loud and incessant. So I have a meeting with Zach Pearson on Thursday, so I have gone through the channels. I reached out to him. Myself and some other neighbors will be meeting with him on site at noon on Thursday. But I will also, because I consider you all my neighbors now because you own that piece of property. So if you're all my neighbors, go ahead and join me on my deck. You want to come sit on my deck and drink a coffee with me or something else? I will serve you a drink and you can listen to the noise with me. Because it is not acceptable for residential neighborhoods. It is unbelievable, and there was no notification. So whenever it started a week and a half ago, I've lost track of the days, it's a bit of a blur. When it started, all I knew was that there were these huge vehicles that showed up and started doing stuff and dropping things and moving around and bulldozing stuff. I had no idea what was going on. There was no notice, no communication whatsoever. So I didn't know what it was. I didn't know where they were going. I don't blame, like, the construction workers are just doing their job. I talked to one of the guys today, and I said, what's in that? I'm curious, what's in that tank? He's like, that's diesel. I'm like, it's a huge tank. I said, is it stored back there? He's like, yeah, it's stored back there. He says, well, the township said we could do it. I said, well, I don't know that the township said you could do it. It doesn't feel like it's appropriate for residential use, and it is ongoing. Again, they start at 7 o'clock in the morning, and there's a whole bunch of noise for the first hour and a half, and then from about 3:30 on, there's a whole bunch of noise again. So I would invite any and all of you to come listen and sit with me and see how you would like that at your homes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
Regan Fader, 6259 Sugar Bush Trail. Okay, some years back, I went door to door. All of us that live on Sugar Bush, from Bunker Hill down around the cul-de-sac, Trundle, Sanford, I don't know what they all are, but we had the option to either go with the commercial chip sealing that was going on in the neighborhood or do a hot mill overlay. We rallied as a group of neighbors, and we did a hot mill overlay. I'm taking it personally. The trucks are beating down our nice road. We're the last one in the neighborhood that has a road that's worth walking on, riding your bikes on. The rest of them are all filled with chuck holes, we all know that. And we know that, in theory, new streets are coming when we get the sewers done. Part of our rumor mill is that we don't have a contract for the second portion or southern portion of the Westport plat, which means that it's 2.5, 3 years, and they're going to keep pounding Sugar Bush Trail and Sanford and Trundle, and what's the one on the backside? Brogan Hill? Okay. Yep. And so I'm just wondering if we find this to be an acceptable use of, nice neighborhood streets as opposed to already torn up neighborhood streets, right? So I think this is the last comment period. Am I up to 4 minutes?
No, you still have 2:20.
I'm
so-
good. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to make public comment?
Yeah, Ian Jennings back on Breezy Point. So we do have a camper, right? So when they do tear up the roads and the sewers on communication, it is pretty paramount we have communication, right? Because if we go camping to the west coast and you got a 4-foot drain, ditch in the front of your house, it disappears, right? So somehow we got the communication channel, when it's going to happen, when it's going to take place. I did talk to David this today. He showed me there's an alerts text. The website's very good. I'm going to be signing up for that. But I think that's one of the things that would help is just the communication, that people know when things are going to happen, so that people don't just turn up and start, demolishing things. Because we didn't plan on that. That's the only thing I just want to add to the comments.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to make public comment? All right, I will close the public comment opportunity. We'll move to item 9, board member comments. We'll start with Mr. Ford.
No, nothing tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Sikora?
Yes, thank you. Since our last board meeting, I attended, last week we had the Parks Committee meeting for our bi-monthly meeting. We got a Fruit Belt Rail Trail construction update, and we reviewed this park signage, among other things. Today, I attended the Friends of the Park monthly meeting. We discussed recent volunteer opportunities, noting their success. We reviewed plans for upcoming events, including the music in the park. Trying to get my handouts here. So we have, hopefully you'll be getting a mailer about music in the park. Should be in your mailboxes soon. Let's see, we also accepted the resignation of longtime board chair Denny Patzer, noting his active involvement and strong leadership. We're looking for more members, so please fill out an application or contact me or Sherry for more information about serving on the Friends of the Parks Board. There were some other things that the parks, either parks or Friends of the Parks have done. They've developed a nice little handout that has, do you love our parks? Need community service hours, want to share a talent or passion? We'll have some of these distributed around and left out where people can use a QR code and get information on those. And also on the flip side, it's going to be a listing of all of our rental facilities. So if you happen to be out and you're looking at renting a facility, it's an easy way to find the link by using the QR code. And they have all of our facilities listed, and then you'll be able to, once you get to the link on the Township website, you'll be able to see videos and floor plans and things like that if you, to help you decide what's appropriate or what you want to use. So I wanted to pass those along to everyone. Tomorrow, Cemeteries, Buildings, and Grounds Committee will meet. On Friday, there's a volunteer opportunity again at the Drake Farmstead Park from 10 to 12 if you're interested in a volunteer activity. The Flagpole Courtyard project that's just out on the other side of that wall there continues to move forward. There were 10 trees that were removed. We have the project funding approved. Landscape company OCBA is managing the project, and we're keeping our fingers crossed that we'll be able to complete the project by July 1st, because we're going out and contacting vendors this week. So hopefully we'll be successful and it's not too late. Wish everyone a safe Memorial Day weekend. I'll be down at the Indy 500 with 350,000 of my friends. And that's all for today. Thank you.
It cracks me up that you go to that.
I know, right? Trustee Chapman?
Thank you. On Thursday, the Planning Commission met, where we had guests from the Michigan Association of Planning that discussed different tools that we can use. Of course, they were just tools. It's nothing that we're actually doing at this point, just tools that we can use to help better our community. And as you saw, we had a discussion over master streets in our comprehensive plan, which is now passed. So nothing else to share at this time.
Thank you. Clerk Farmer?
Yeah. I wanted to share this with the board because it's going to come back in the form of a request. So we just finished the May election, and we did a review of our absentee voter counting board processes. We've been improving those processes for quite a while, since we received the high-speed tabulator, and it's been a challenge. But I have a primary election worker, a chair, who has been working with me to improve the processes. Some of you might know him, Kyle Gibson, who used to work for our building department. And under his leadership, they have been thriving. It's been a really good process to see the workers are more confident. Unfortunately, he will not be able to work the August election. And I found that at the primary election. And I found that out, and I was talking about it when we went down to the county on election night, and one of the vendors, ESNS, our vendor for our tabulator, they said, well, actually, you can buy somebody to come and help you with your elections. And I'm like, first of all, where was this when we struggled so hard with the high-speed tabulator the first two elections? I digress. It's $22.50 for the day, and that's going to be the request I bring to the board. I would like to have that expert on site throughout the entire election process. I think it's going to be important to maintain efficiency and accuracy. And then Kyle will be back with us in November. But also with this team member from our vendor, we would have the opportunity of creating further processes that we would be able to use in future elections. Anyway, that's all I have. I'll bring a memo and everything to the board, and we can deliberate, discuss it, and I look forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Treasurer Bushka?
I do not have any comments this evening.
Well, thank you. I don't have anything particularly prepared. I want to thank the board for putting this special meeting on the calendar so that we could get this work done, which also opened the door for an opportunity for us to apply for that grant funding. So I thank you for making time on your schedule to do that. I thank all of our staff and partners for the really long work. It almost feels a little surreal that this is kind of going to the next step. I look forward to learning more about what the next steps are from the Planning Commission, particularly as we go into that zoning reform to, so we're fortunate that we've set ourselves up this way. So I'm really looking forward to that work. We will have a board meeting next Wednesday because Neil needed Tuesday off to recover from the Indianapolis 500. That's right. No, okay, so we will have a board meeting. We will close this meeting here shortly, and David and I will start tomorrow to create the next board packet for the next board meeting. But I do want to give you a sneak peek that we will spend some time on organizational structure, some staffing recommendations from HR, and that will be kind of I anticipate that will be a significant part of our discussion next week, okay? And so with that, we've exhausted our agenda, and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
I guess